What's up, you guys? It's 2bricks, and I am so excited to bring you the latest mock in my Ultimate Playset Scale series. This is the legendary Luke Skywalker's T-65 X-Wing Red 5 as flown in A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and now in, made appearances in the sequel trilogy, and then flown once again in The Rise of Skywalker. So this is obviously a massive, massive part of the Star Wars mythology, a super iconic, instantly recognizable ship, and one that is really, really difficult to capture and do justice to. And so it's something that I think every mock maker should cut their teeth at some point trying to do their own version of Red 5, because it's such a fun build and such a fun design. So that is what I've done here. And when I set out to make the ship, I gave myself a whole kind of design brief, as I usually do. I sat down and I thought about what my goals were for this build and what I wanted to create. And I think that I have hit all of the goals that I set for myself, and now I'm really happy to be able to bring it to you guys, complete with instructions, which you can purchase from my Rebrickable store. You can check out the link down in the description, and I believe I will have left a pinned comment for that as well. So you guys can build your own. This model is extremely sturdy. It's built for play. Like, you can see it wobbling around on the stand right now, but that's totally fine. That's an intentional design choice. There's nothing brittle about it that's going to make it fall off the stand or anything. It has flex in the design. And I'm going to get in to show you guys all of the features, the little bits of accuracy and detail that I've put in here, and all the little kind of action features that this has as well. And you guys are going to get to see all that in a second. But yeah, I just want to emphasize that this is a model that is for everyone. If you're a collector who is obsessed with accuracy and detail, I've tried my best to give you absolutely every single little bit of color and little kind of call out all the little details that I possibly could. But if you're just somebody who's a younger builder, who's inexperienced and who's looking for a model to play with and handle and just use like a regular Lego set, this is also a fully functioning toy as well. And I'll show you guys a little stress test later on, and you'll get to see just how sturdy this model actually is as well. So really, really proud of all of that and super excited to share it with you. So without any further ado, let's jump in and take a look. And just before we look at the X-Wing itself, I want to give you guys a quick look at the other two models from my Ultimate Playset Scale line. Since I mentioned that before, if you guys aren't familiar, what that basically means is just my intention to create models that are super durable and playable, can be picked up and handled really easily. Same goes for this guy here, and have a lot of interior play features and things like that, where you can actually pop off, like on the Stinger Mantis here, you can take off the roof and see the whole interior, and give as much of that kind of playability as well as the aesthetics to the models that I can, and then give you guys instructions for them so you can build them yourself as if they're real Lego sets. So here's how the X-Wing scales compared to the other two. Obviously, the Falcon is way, way undersized. The Stinger Mantis also is a little bit undersized, so the scales are all a little bit off, but same goes for Lego sets. The main thing is kind of how each model scales to the figures that are included and how it plays and how it looks. So yeah, that's just a quick comparison shot for you guys. So let's move on to looking at the X-Wing itself. All right, you guys, so here is Red 5 on the stand. I do like to try to include a stand for ships that I feel could really benefit from it. The Falcon had one. The Stinger Mantis did not have one, but I feel like that ship is so much more of a play set than it is a flying swooshable ship that it just didn't really need it. But Red 5 here is a super dynamic starfighter, so it definitely needed to have a stand. And I'll show you guys all the details of that separately in a little bit here when we take it off. I did include a couple of studs here at the front where you can just attach your characters who have flown Red 5. And that actually also includes this nice little Rebel Alliance logo, which I thought was a fun little addition. Red 5 is a symbol of the Rebel Alliance, is a symbol of hope, and it's the ship that blew up the Death Star. So what really embodies the rebellion more than the X-Wings, and this one in particular. So I thought that was a cool inclusion, and did it in the red there to kind of make it really, really pop against the black and really give you that nice rebellion kind of color scheme. So that's cool. And then the other thing I just wanted to discuss before we get into the specific features on the ship is just really quick. Obviously, if you look at this and you've seen other X-Wing mocks that are out there, you'll see that it bears a lot of visual similarities to other people's mocks of all types. And what I've tried to do here is design this on my own from scratch. I haven't sort of started with anything and built from there, but obviously other incredible builders like Mike Saki and Inthert and other builders throughout the years have given us really, really incredible X-Wings. And what I've tried to do is take those elements that I really liked and overall design that is super strong and super playable and also has the aesthetics that I like. And you know, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, and I'm not trying to claim that like I came up with every single technique. A lot of these techniques are also used in official Lego sets. So I know people, there's kind of this thing with Lego of like, you copied so-and-so with this design, and I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that, of course, anybody who makes an X-Wing, you're probably going to use either, you know, a cockpit like this that is pre-made from Lego, or you're going to make a brick-built one. And so many other people have done really incredible ones that, you know, there's no point trying to be different just for the sake of being different. But where my model really stands out is in the features, the level of attention to detail in the accuracy of the color scheme, and in the playability of it as well. So yeah, just wanted to call that out, and yeah, let's take a look at the ship. All right, so first thing we're going to take a look at is what stuff on the ship can do stuff. So let's get into that really quick, and you can see I've just popped Luke back inside of the cockpit, which obviously can open. That's a given. And I'll just show you how to take it off the stand. You just place a hand on there and just pull up, and it comes right off. Now, sometimes, because of the nature of the design of the stand, one of these plates that is a part of the stand will come off with the bottom of the ship like that. I tried to use these 1x4 plates with the 2 studs on them only on the stand, so that it would hopefully clutch onto the stand and not onto the ship. But you know, sometimes it is unavoidable. One of these will come up and you just have to pop it off and stick it back on, but not a big deal. I think for the stability of having a studded design on here, I think that's really worthwhile having it. And this stand, by the way, is incredibly rock solid from every angle. Like, there's a Technic structure in here that is pinned in multiple ways and multiple angles on the inside here, and it's not going anywhere. This thing is super sturdy. So the next thing, so I showed you the cockpit that can open up like so. So the next thing of note is there's a lot of nice detail inside that cockpit, and the best way for you to see it, because you know Luke is very, very snug in there and all the sides are kind of hugging him really tightly, so the best way to see that is just to open up the sides here of the cockpit, and you can just have really, really easy access to all the interior features and get a look at the inside of the cockpit like that. And I think that works out really well, because a lot of times, you know, it's a tight fit in there to get your figure down in there, and if you have, particularly if you have figures like this one that are pretty rare, like this helmeted figure only came in one set with this removable helmet with the visor piece, so I don't want to break this, so I don't want to be like jamming my fingers down in there to get it. So like this, I just have nice, easy access, and I can just place him in there from the side, and I don't have to worry too much that I'm breaking the feet, like not lining it up or anything. So I like that. Luke has a couple of console pieces in here, of course. He has these couple of little kind of tubey extensions that come off of the back of the seat here that represent a specific Red 5 design feature, where there's these kind of like life support tubes. And then when you close this up, these two, there's a stud or a plate right here that sticks out, and one on the other side which catches the inside of this cockpit. So once it's closed, that is locked up and you can no longer open it. So it just makes it nice and secure and easy to handle, which I really like. So yeah, Luke has his 2 consoles on the side. He has a nice little view screen. Let me just take this piece off so you can see better. A couple of, there's a little view screen in the center there, a little kind of targeting computer or whatever that is on the side, and then a flight yoke as well directly in front of him that he can hold onto to make that killing shot on the Death Star. And then the next thing that can open up is directly behind that, these 2 flaps as well, to allow you to have access to your R2-D2. They actually serve 2 purposes. So to be able to get your R2 in and out really easily, and he's just held in there again with the jumper studs. And so you can place R2 in there, and then you pull these up to the sides. And what I really like about this is that R2's feet are actually wider than his shoulders. So normally there's a 4 stud wide gap in these designs where your R2 unit will sit in there like that to give him space for his feet to come through, right? So now with this hinge design, you can just bring that down all the way, and you can just hug up against the shoulders really tight. So it makes for a really, really snug, nice fit, and you know, super convenient to be able to take him out afterwards as well. So I really like that. And then down on the bottom here, we have the opening cargo bay, which you can actually see in Empire when Luke is getting ready to leave Dagobah. This is open, and he's got this big yellow ladder right here, and he's like loading up cargo onto the other side, and I just use that to house, if I can get it out, Luke's lightsaber. There you go. So the blade fits down in this little hole, and then the hilt just sits in front of that. And so that's a really convenient place, you know, since there's an actual storage area canonically on the ship. It's a really convenient place to store Luke's lightsaber when you're putting him in the ship, so you don't lose it. Nice and easy as well. And then the final thing, well, I guess the second to last thing that this ship can do, because the big one is the wings, obviously, but this also has nicely buried away landing gear, which you can just pull down, and there's a stopper on there that just pulls it to the exact right spot where you want it to be. And I made sure that the landing gear is nice and close to the tip of the nose cone right there, like it is on the actual ship. And then there's additional landing gear back here buried inside of the engines. So when you have those deployed, and I just set these clips to be at the right angle so that they're flat on the ground, and then you just place it, and it's really nice and secure. You know, it's a nice sturdy design, and if you move it back and forth a little bit, there's really very, very little ways that you can mess it up, like unless you really slam down on the ship, you know. Sometimes these landing gear designs can be kind of hinged in a way where if you slightly bump the ship forward, it'll like retract back in. Because of the angle that this is pitched forward and because of that little stopper on the front, this is kind of locked into place and isn't really going to go anywhere no matter how you move the ship around. So I really like that about it. So yeah, that's the second to last thing that the ship can do. And then let me just put the landing gear back to show you the final thing, which of course, when you're swishing around your X-Wing, you need to be able to open the S-foils. That is the biggest thing, and I am proud to say you can do that on my model super easily using a brand new mechanism that I designed that allows you to just open it with a single button that is underneath here. And let me just show you where that is. So this plate, this whole plate right here, is a button that you push up, and then on the top, when you do that, this little greebly panel pops up, and that's the button that you push to make them go back down. And this whole mechanism is just achieved using Technic lift arms, and there's enough tension in there with the way that it's designed to hold really, really nicely at the top of this you know, open position. And then when it comes down, the wings just, you can, you know, do it manually like this too. The wings just sit nice and flat, and you just have that really, really smooth action. So really, really happy with how that came together. I think one of the main things that's always bugged me about the Lego version is you can see rubber bands poking out of it. You can see big actuators on top that you have to pull back or rotate or spin, or there's like levers coming out of the bottom that like pushes the wings together. That's actually something I forgot to show you. That's something my ship can do as well, where on Lego's one, they have it where there's this big axle that comes out of the bottom so that when you put the ship down, when the wings are deployed, it makes the wings, you know, disengage. Well, on my one, when the landing gear is up, you just put it down, it does that on its own, and it naturally folds back into this nice, flat, you know, tight position like that. So that's something that I think worked out really, really well for this as well. And the need, or the, I guess the absence of rubber bands or geared mechanisms that are complicated and really hard to get just right, I think this is a super simple solution. You build it and it goes together really easily, and you just have this mechanism that just works. So really, really pleased with that. Let me just pop these wings off and I'll show you guys exactly what is going on the interior of that. All right, so I've just taken the wings off. They're attached with these Technic 3 long pins, and you just have this, basically these lift arms in here are pinned into the frame of the structure, and then you have this, this whole central structure in here that moves upwards and that pushes on basically the middle point of this scissor, and it applies pressure to both of these top wings here. And in so doing, because it's a scissored effect, so the top goes right through and connects to this bottom one, and this top one goes through and connects to this bottom one. If you move one, it moves the other, and it makes them both go. And so the whole thing is pinned into place, like I said, in with the frame, and then you just have this entire thing moving up and down through the inside of it. And that just really gives you, like I said, just enough friction. And to make it even a little bit extra sturdy, I created this thing in here. Let me see if I can just pop this off and show you guys. There's a few bits that are flying loose right now. Obviously, the ship isn't really designed to just come apart like that, but I'll show you here. You can see that this plate right here engages some studs that go in just a little bit into this plate underneath, which is, you know, the top of the frame here. And that little bit of extra clutch power just gives you that nice snap into place at the end where it just locks in and it feels really nice and secure. It feels really good when you're playing with it. So yeah, that's how that was done. And well, you guys have seen that now, so you don't need the instructions. No, I'm just kidding. You should get the instructions. But yeah, so that's how that was achieved. It's based on a prototype that I had worked on a couple of months ago, and I just couldn't quite crack it. And then when I saw that LEGO was doing a new version of their own X-Wing, I really, really wanted to revisit that. And luckily this time I was able to get it to work. So really, really pleased about that as well. All right, so I've gone ahead and put that back together now. And I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at the stress test to give you guys an idea of how sturdy this model is before we move on and just appreciate all the little details and little aesthetic features that I added. So, you know, first thing is you could just pick it up basically anywhere. Like you can just lift it, and this part right here where two different parts of the structure come together at different angles is a weaker point, but it's not so weak that you can't like handle it. Like it naturally wants to pop back into place right there. So the way that this was designed, I did a sideways build with this with plates and bricks with clips on it to hold in the landing gear underneath. So this is all integrated into this really, really sturdy central beam. So this whole front nose section here is really, really strong. This is all held in with a lot of studs on the inside of it onto a hinged kind of setup in there with hinged plates and stuff. So that's all nice and secure. This all comes together super tight at the front, and there's no like gaps or parts where you could bump it and like knock things off. The only thing is like this is held in with a single stud, this little bit of decoration on the side of the nose cone here. But it's held in such a way that it doesn't, like, if you just grab the nose, you're not gonna like knock that off. At least I haven't been. You have these cannons here, which are usually really, really fragile in these things. They're so thin. These are not going anywhere because you have structure that is going right the way through it, where there's all bars into studs connected right the way down that. So this is flexible, but it will not break. So that's super great. Really happy about that. These parts are attached with 5 studs each, so they're not going anywhere. This part right here, now this was a new design that I had never seen anyone try before either, where these relatively new parts with the bar and the stud, there's actually an open stud on the back of that. So plugging this in backwards to the front of this air intake and then clipping it in and then pinning it through the middle with not a Technic beam, a bar that runs into this engine assembly, which is like solid structure. These are really, really strong. Like I actually can't even pull these out. I'm pulling the whole ship around by that air intake. So that's a really, really sturdy design, and that's something that was previously very fragile. So, you know, these are held in with you know, all clamped down. You have this back part right here, which these are normally a weaker area too, not going anywhere. So the wings themselves are attached, like I said, with those Technic pins. There's enough of them that you're never going to accidentally pull the wings out. Those are super sturdy. You can actually pick the whole thing up by the wings, no problem. You can place it on its engines, stand up like that. This is a very rugged and durable ship right here. So I'm really happy that there's really nowhere, like if you have kids that like to play rough, there's nowhere on this that you can just grab and it'll just collapse in your hands. Like that was the main thing I really wanted to avoid. A lot of really, really beautiful designs out there. You know, they look so great, but you breathe on them and they collapse. And so that was something I really, really wanted to avoid with this one. And I think I've done that here. And you can see here it's sitting flat on, actually designed the bottom of this to be flat instead of having like a faceted look on the bottom, which would be technically a little bit more accurate, but I wanted it to have a flat bottom because if you don't want to have the landing gear deployed, if you're nervous about that being too thin, you know, like if you're worried that someone's going to accidentally hit it and break the landing gear, you can just let it sit flat on the table like this, and that's totally fine as well. So you definitely have options. And of course, when it's on the stand, let me just show you guys how that works. So there's this part right here where there are these 2 cheese slopes, and it kind of keys in to this wider area. Sorry, I'm trying to get my thumb around it. This wider area under the ship lines up with those studs. So let me just place that on here. And so yeah, the cheese slopes line up, So the cheese slopes in here line up with this wider part of the ship, so you have this part where you kind of registers it in there, and then you just push down on the studs from the top here, really solid, and you can spin it around on the base and it's not going anywhere. So that's really nice and secure as well. So like I said, these Technic lift arms that make up this stand right here have a little bit of flex and give just in the way that they're connected. That's the design, you know, of how they're engineered. But that flex does not mean weakness. It's very sturdy. So yeah. So the aesthetics of Red 5. This is obviously a super broken down, beat up old fighter that has been through a ton of action. And I wanted to make sure that I reflected the shooting model that ILM had for the miniatures for this to as much of a degree as I could possibly manage, both in the shaping and in the color scheme. And I think that that's something that I've managed to do. So stuff like this really weathered, worn yellow paint at the front, the missing panels here with a little bit of subtle green, that actually shows up in the studio model, you know, under the right lighting conditions. You can see the colors more. It's harder to see in the movie, but you can still pick out those things if you look carefully. And then there's this gray panel right here that's missing that I really like that I was able to get that in because of the sideways build of this design. The broken stripe down the side here, which I really like. These are just a little call out to those missile launchers that sit underneath the bottom proton torpedo launchers underneath the ship. I really wanted to get working spring-loaded shooter proton torpedoes in there, but it was really compromising the structural integrity of this whole front section of the ship here, so I decided to leave that out. On the underside here, you can see it's mainly white, but there are a few spots of color, like you have this dark gray panel right here, and then on the back here you can see this little spot of dark red, which is also reflected in the ship's design. Underneath here I didn't skimp out on the detail. You can see the bottoms of the engines and everything have the same level of detail to them that the tops do. I tried to create this little shape here where the back of the engine kind of dives in to, you know, kind of create this little indented part that, as it goes into the main engine assembly. I made sure to reflect the green panel here and this little green off-colored section in here. And then also there's this broken line where here it goes right the way through, and then here there's a gray panel. It's kind of like, and it looks like a patch that was applied. And then a little kind of greeblies in here on the wing design. I wanted to avoid stickers. There's actually no stickers anywhere on this, but LEGO does make a ton of X-Wings, and there are really good, nice sticker designs out there that you can use. So there is like a Red 5 insignia that comes on a 1x3 tile, which you can totally use. There's also the yellow kind of sticker that goes over one of these engines that has the yellow housing on it, which you can totally apply, you know, substitute those yourself if you have them. But I wanted to use a purist LEGO approach here. So technically, if you consider this as one stripe on the outside, you have 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and then in the middle, these two come together as a single stripe, so that's 5. So technically, there are 5 stripes there if you look at it from a certain point of view. This greebly section down here, I tried to be super accurate to that. You have this kind of little narrow raised box section in here, these grills that come down at this certain angle that kind of slope down. I tried to put like little bits of off kind of like dark tan in there for some rust. You have one little brown patch in there for rust, and these little bits right here, these off-color parts. I tried to make those match roughly with the studio model, you know, as much as I could. And then little kind of section back here where R2 sits, there's this thing that sort of hugs onto the back of him, so try to call that out as well. You have the nice pink engine glow present in all the engines back here. So there's a cone sitting back there, which has a trans pink stud on the front of it. Both pieces, the cone and the stud, are trans pink, so you get a lot of that nice pink color coming through. I really love that George Lucas made the engine exhaust from his hero spaceship in his first Star Wars movie pink. I think that's super rad. These little bits of detail down here, this one is a little bit oversized, but I didn't want to leave it out, and so I just placed a green tile in here, but there's like a little green strip that goes next to this tan part. This panel here that has a very specific shape, and then this one under here, which could be just rusting or could be a separate patched plate, I'm not really sure. And then back here as well, you have this really complex design in here with the gray that has this kind of nice swoop to it. And then this, I believe, is like a dark like muddy orange color. So I used the nougat color for that, for this little triangular design that sits next to the cockpit. And of course this, these two dark gray, really recognizable shaped panels here as well. So I think all those just add this air of authenticity and specificity that makes you know that you're looking at Red 5. Like Red 5 has the little spiraled blue designs that go up the wings, like everyone who's a Red 5 fan or a original trilogy model buff knows about that. So as soon as you see this, you know that that's the one that you're looking for. I really like actually the laser suppressors up here. These were a tricky design to figure out, and I tried so many iterations. Over the years I've built various X-Wings, and this was one of the things that I always struggled with, and this design ended up being really simple and actually pretty effective. It's really grown on me as it sits here, and I think it's approximately the right size, like perhaps a tiny bit oversized, but I'm actually really happy with how they came out. So yeah, I think that all worked out pretty well. Yeah, and then I think just having the little Rebellion logo just gives it that extra little bit of sort of professionality, I guess you could say. Yeah, and then, if you're, I forgot to show you this back panel here. Try to be, again, super faithful to the Greebling. You have the three little fins in here that I represented with this clip and this angled bar piece. This kind of dark, rusty look in here. And then actually, when we look inside of the wings too, I have these little recessed areas which are filled in with gray greebly details, and then they're slightly different on both sides. There's nothing under this wing, so the way that this worked out, I actually ended up using these large wing panels for the base, these large wedge plates, and there's a specific reason for that. I wanted this to be able to be customized really easily for different versions of X-Wings from different squadrons, and so if you have a really intricate design that relies on the color scheme structurally, it can be really difficult to substitute something without like messing up the whole wing design. So if you have this really nice solid base under here with a single piece, all of this is just optional basically, right? And then so the same goes for underneath. Let me flip the model around. So on the underside, this is that same large single piece, and then on the inside of that we have that little bit of greebly detail on the inside with the recessed areas. But again, you could just strip all of this off super easily. You're not going to affect anything about the wing design and the integrity of it itself, and that's really going to help you out. So yeah, so I think, if you want to do Blue Squadron or make up your own design, or do Wedge Antilles one, or do Biggs Darklighters, or do a Porkins X-Wing, go to town, because I think you're going to find the design of this is pretty durable and pretty easy to customize. So even with like these parts right here, there's nothing really on the surface detail that is super integral and that you would need to keep if you wanted to make this into a different model of X-Wing. So yeah, so really happy with that as well. Obviously, you probably going to struggle a little bit more to make this into like a Poe Dameron, like T-70 X-Wing, because it's a whole different ship and it has a whole different structure with the engines and everything. Don't ask me about that. I don't know if I'm going to do a T-70 or a T-85. Those are... I'm just happy that I got this one finished, and specifically I was trying to do Luke Skywalker's Red 5, because that's the ship that I love. So I don't know about any other versions right now, but I know you guys are going to ask me in the comments. So yeah, one last thing to do, and then we'll wrap up the video. I just wanted to place Rey in the cockpit of Red 5. And I love that we got this helmet from Lego a few years back, and I'm really sad that they discontinued this style of helmet, because as you can see, you can place it on any character. And I don't know about you guys, I know there's a lot of hate for the sequel trilogy online, but for me, when I saw this in the theater, I squealed with delight when Rey put on that helmet and flew Red 5 to Exegol. I was thrilled. So there you go, there's Rey. And actually I did like, because there is one more thing I wanted to show you guys before we wrap up. All right, so really quickly, I know you guys, you accuracy hounds out there, are still very displeased that Lego has not given us an accurately shaped X-Wing cockpit that should split in the middle. This line here is actually where the cockpit splits and opens up from, and also which narrows at the front from what should be, ideally it should go from 4 studs to 3 studs for this scale. And so I've just done a really quick and dirty not elegant brick built solution here, but it does hinge from the middle as the actual thing should do. And, you know, it is technically the correct shape. And I think, you know, from a certain point of view, aka as far away from the model as you can get, it looks all right. I don't love it, but I just wanted to show you guys that it is possible. I had to do a lot of modification to these panels down here and stuff to get that to work, but it is possible to do brick built alternatives if you're not happy with Lego's own cockpit. But personally, I actually really like the look of the cockpit. Even though I know it's not actually, you know, movie accurate, I think that it is a nice piece and it just fits. And yeah, so that's just something to think about. This design is very easy to mod. So yeah, that was that. All right, you guys, so there we go. I've restored the X-Wing to its former glory, and I've just placed the 2 masters of this X-Wing down at the front here. Unfortunately, Anakin never got to fly an X-Wing, so he did not achieve the rank of master on that one. Denied again, poor Anakin. Oh well. But yeah, there is my custom T-65 X-Wing. I think that I have done a good job at this. I don't know. Why don't you guys let me know down in the comments. The instructions are, like I said, available right now, and anything that you do purchase supports the channel and helps me to grow and have future builds for you guys. So I really, really appreciate that. Even if you're just looking to learn some new techniques, hopefully I didn't give everything away in the video. You guys can check out the instructions for that as well. Yeah, really, really appreciate it, you guys. As ever, the continued support is amazing, and you guys are the best. So especially, you know, as we approach the end of what has been a really, really tough year, I'm really glad to be able to bring you guys a little extra treat towards the end of the year here, something that you know, hopefully will enjoy, as you know, we have to wait until January to get Lego's official one anyway. So you can go ahead and do this in the meantime if you need your X-Wing fix. And yeah, so that's going to be it from me today, guys. Oh, and I will be purchasing that one, by the way, the official X-Wing. I'll be getting that one, and I'll be showing it to you guys side by side with this one, so you can get a look at the comparison of the features. But yeah, so yeah, thank you guys again, and hope you have a very safe and happy holidays. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and may the Force be with you.